But first, and this is a bit embarrassing, turns out that we've got a new Nazi Germany on our doorstep, China this time. And here we are with our pants down. It's the Prime Minister himself who, in a speech today on national security, 4 times said that the situation we face now reminded him of the world in the 1930s, just before World War II.
The 1930s has been something I have been revisiting on a very regular basis.
The 1930s, of course, was when Hitler was building a fearsome new Nazi army for his dictatorship, while the rest of the West just fiddled and hoped for peace in our time. Now, Morrison did not today say, hey, China's dictator is our Hitler. He was saying that the world order was breaking down now like it did then.
We have not seen the conflation of global economic and strategic uncertainty now being experienced here in Australia, in our region, since the existential threat we faced when the global and regional order collapsed in the 1930s and 1940s. Tensions over territorial claims are rising across the Indo-Pacific region, as we have seen recently on the disputed border between India and China, in the South China Sea, and the East China Sea.
Now, take each of those disputes Morrison just mentioned there. All involve China, and China as the aggressor. China's pushing so hard, for instance, against India's border in the Himalayas, where the troops have been fighting there with fists and clubs. In fact, just this month, 20 Indian soldiers were killed. It's also stolen the South China Sea and threatens aircraft from other countries trying to fly over it.
Philippine military aircraft, I'm warning you again. Leave immediately, or you will bear forward responsibility for all the consequences.
And in the East China Sea, China has sent its navy into seas that are actually claimed by Japan. And then add the other tensions, particularly China cracking down on democracy protests in Hong Kong, warning Taiwan that it's going to take over that country too. We suddenly face a very dangerous world.
The risk of miscalculation and even conflict is heightening.
But here's the thing. Where are our subs? Where are they? You know, those 12 new submarines that the Turnbull government ordered 4 years ago to replace our old ones? Those new submarines that won't even start getting built for another 14 years. With the last one not due to be finished until around 2053. Actually, I think it's 4 years, another 4 years that won't get built. Now, can our Foreign Minister please call China's dictator and ask him to wait 30, 32, 35 years before pressing any buttons, to just hold off using China's brand new navy until poor Australia finally catches up? I'll tell you what, how much more stupid does former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull now look, having ordered these Adelaide-built French-designed new subs from scratch 4 years ago on the spectacularly dangerous assumption that we could afford to wait 4 decades to get them all. Well, it seems our new Prime Minister, bing, a light's just gone on. We've got to muscle up in a hell of a hurry. There's no other way to understand Scott Morrison's 2 big defence spend-a-thons this week. First, he said he'd spend $1.3 billion to save us from more cyber attacks. This is just 2 weeks after China, which is the worst offender here, launched a cyber attack on Australia, a modern act of war.
This activity is targeting Australian organisations across a range of sectors, including all levels of government, industry, political organisations, education, health, essential service providers and operators of other critical infrastructure.
Now that's so brazen, you've got to ask, what might China do next? To spy on us or to steal our secrets or to hurt our infrastructure, particularly in a crisis? Well, it seems Scott Morrison has thought about just that. Today he said he'd spend $270 billion over the next decade on everything from hypersonic strike missiles to underwater surveillance technology and smart sea mines. But most symbolic will be the new missiles he wants for our Super Hornet fighters. And these missiles, these new ones, will triple the range from 124 kilometres to 370. You see, we want to be able to hit stuff that's a long way from our shores, like Chinese stuff, although Morrison put that more delicately.
These new policies will require force structure and capability adjustments. These must be able to hold potential adversaries, forces and infrastructure at risk from greater distance.
Now, we don't want China's Navy coming anywhere near our coast. It'd be a bit too late for us if it does. And it is China that was very much on Morrison's brain today with his announcements, because there is indeed something very 1930s about all of this, particularly about the hyper-nationalism of Chinese President Xi Jinping. In May, Chinese state media reported Xi actually met a delegation from his army and told them to strengthen training and prepare for war. Now, I'm not saying that China is about to invade Poland or anywhere else, but most wars do start, as did World War I, with leaders making a miscalculation. They think, if I grab that territory or I bully that weakling, they're not going to fight back. It'll just be all glory, no pain. Except those countries do fight back. They feel they have to. And that could happen here. And you can, right now, you can almost see Beijing thinking, would the West really defend Taiwan if we take it back? I mean, look how weak the West now is. It's weak in will, it's weak from the virus, it's divided, race rights. The West is in decline. And Xi Jinping now seems ready for some crazy risks. That's maybe why it's pushing so hard. Maybe it's because China's economy is slowing and he needs to give the Chinese people another reason to back him and not to shoot him. He's really ramping up the nationalism, the aggression. And there is now one good way to stop any miscalculation by him. As the saying goes, if you want peace, prepare for war. It will not hurt to let China know we do bite and that we're just about to get ourselves some much sharper teeth.